Hoka, hey, Alita Army. Welcome to the Alita live stream of January the 26th, 2024. Where does Alita's expertise lie? And real life comparisons, where we discuss all things to do with the movie Alita Battle Angel, the source manga Gundam, and the greatly desired sequels. I am your host, the Muskogee Creek. And before we get into the guest introductions here, I just want to put onto the stream early on that we have Rosa's Queen Studios bust, and we want to present that to her as an expression of our admiration and appreciation. And I have this in my house right now, and we're looking to give that to her, and eventually one day we hope to do that. So anyway, right now we only have Matu. I'm so sure that some others will come along here in a little bit. And I put a link in the chat if anybody wants to come on and talk about Alita. There it is. Just click on it. I'll bring you in. But how's things going in France there, Matu?
Bonsoir. Well, things are going fine. Cold, but fine.
Yeah. Cold here too as well. I see Angelus is out there in the chat. Angelus, are you at work? I guess you must be probably. He says he's coming. So evidently he's trying to get coffee or something. So that's fine, And Grus Scott and hello to Finn and Smendrick. How's it going, you guys? Or Bigatus Dia Hoita. So anyway, enough for the pleasantries there, I guess. Before we get into the main topic, though, we definitely want to talk about the Alita sequel petition. And right now we have 178,000, a little over that, in terms of the signatures we have. So if you have not signed the petition yet, then please, the link is down in the, excuse me, the link is down in the description below the screen. Just click on it, go sign that. And this is our way of another way that we have to let Disney know that we want that sequel. We're going to keep reminding them over and over and over and over, and we're never going to stop. So, I mean, if they want to think we're a thorn in their side, then I'm sorry about that. But that's kind of the way it's going to work until they give us the sequel. We're going to stay at it. And here's the Hero Arm campaign, and it's kind of we didn't put any money in it this week, but we're doing okay in that regard in terms of the what we have in the Alita Army bank account. We got something like a little over $4,000, almost $4,100, $4,100 that is. And if you haven't donated to the Hero Arm campaign, then please do so. No amount's too small. You can either click on the link that you see in the screen there. It's in the description, actually. But if you find that a little intimidating and you don't really want to click on the link, because sometimes a financial thing like this or GoFundMe can look a little intimidating, where there's a tip jar down there, and you can also click on that. So, no amount's too small. Also, we've got a mass tweet coming up on February the 14th. We are going to continue to pepper Disney with our desire for an Alita sequel, in this case, sequels. And it's not just going to be on Twitter either, X. It's also going to be on Facebook if you're there. That you can do a post there as well. You can do one on Instagram. You can do one on TikTok. You can do one in Reddit. Wherever you spend most of your time on the internet, I guess. Then you can kind of put that message out to let Disney know that we definitely want to have that sequel. So anyway, that's where we are with that one on February the 14th. And the reason why that is, everybody knows that's Valentine's Day, but it's also the 5th anniversary of Alita Battle Angel being released into theaters. So, we're going to, we may be planning some things for that week too, to do something extra, maybe an extra stream or two, and Radio Chaos, I think, may do something. So, we're going to have a good time that week celebrating Alita's 5th anniversary. So anyway, stay tuned for that one. Okay, so Matu, right now it's just you and I. Angelus is going to come on. Okay, Angelus, do we want to talk about Creaky's 65,000 subscribers on YouTube? But not really.
Congratulations.
I don't. Thanks. I don't like to toot my horn too much, but yeah, we got.
It's okay. I will tweet it for you. Like, this is amazing, and I'm proud of you.
Well, I appreciate that, you know, and the main reason we're doing it, of course, is I want to get as much exposure to Alita and Rosa Salazar, because you guys all know that I put videos on for Rosa Salazar, and I've even got one planned for Jessie Fisher. You know, she's got a birthday coming up, and I've done one for Elle Lamont. She had a birthday last September. I did a video for her too as well. And I let, I can't remember Gerhard's name now, but I let that one got by me. But next time I'm going to do one for her as well, you know, because we want to let all the ladies of Alita Battle Angel, and I did one for Jennifer Connelly too, by the way. We want to let them all know that, you know, we really appreciate them a lot, you know. So anyway, that's where we sit with that. So here's what we're going to be talking about. And by the way, if anybody wants to come on, don't be bashful. And I'm talking to you, Finn. I know you think your English isn't that good, but you know, hey, it's as good as mine at least. So anyway, there's the link right there. Just click on it. And if all you want to do is come on and say, I love Alita, or for Smendrick and Finn, if you want to say Kleba Alita, then that's good too. We're okay with that. And you know, you can get off if you want, or you can stay on. Doesn't matter. Any way you want to do it, it's perfectly fine. So anyway, we've kind of talked about this in some regard in the past. I think we're going to go a little bit more into Alita's, I guess you would say, being, if you want to think of it, and what makes her who she is, as opposed to, you know, just her ability to fight. Certainly that's a lot of it, you know. And we definitely will be talking about that too as well, you know. But, you know, what makes up Alita? And there is from Poland, channel does not exist. Hello, channel. So how's things in Poland there, channel?
Fine, I guess.
Is it cold?
There's snow again.
Oh, cool. So it is. So we have snow here in Colorado, although it didn't stick too well, but
doesn't stick here either. It just falls, it stays for the night, and then it falls like within a few days, but it's falling again.
Oh, it is? Well, ours has stopped falling. It stopped falling about an hour ago, I think. We got like 2 inches, I think, and it's almost all melted off by now. So it's really not, you know, it's really not real cold. It's probably around close to 0 degrees Celsius or 32, you know, something like that. So
it's 2 degrees Celsius over here, so the snow is definitely not gonna stick.
Yes, it's just not going to at those temperatures, you know, because what happens on that is, you know, the temperature up where the snow originates is cold enough for it to freeze, but when it falls to earth, you know, and it lands on the ground is warmer and it just melts, you know, or it melts pretty quickly. But anyway, this is not a meteorology channel, so we can get on with it, you know. But we have talked about some of this stuff before, like Alita's military training. We're going to go into that. I got some videos that we're going to play, or segments of a video that we're going to play. And we're going to certainly talk about her weapons training and tactics, but you know, also her being in the Mauser school, you know, Panzer Kunst, you know, and we're going to kind of talk about that. And that's why I'm hoping Angelus comes on, because Angelus is our resident martial artist. I mean, years ago I was a martial artist, but I haven't really trained in martial arts for a pretty good while. You know, I kind of know the ins and outs about it because I am a black belt, but I don't really do any more serious training on it, you know. And then of course we're going to just chat about how this helps her berserker body. We're not going to go into the Imaginos body because the Imaginos body is that's kind of a fantasy body almost, you know, and it's kind of, she's really OP in that body. I mean, even if she didn't have any expertise at all in terms of fighting, then the Imaginos body would still be she would still be a formidable opponent in the Imaginos body, even without any training. So we're going to limit this to the Berserker body. We'll even touch on the doll body some, because even though it doesn't have the power that the Berserker body does, she's still formidable in the doll body because of her training, in which we'll get to that. Anything y'all want to add there, Matu or Channel?
Nope. I think you said it all.
Cool. So before we get into that, one of the things that makes Alita who she is our queen, Rosa. She really trained hard for this. And I think you guys have probably seen this, but I still want to play it because it gives you a sense of what Rosa put into this, because she trained for 6 months, getting ready for this movie, and not just fighting. She learned how to rollerblade and stuff like that, so, and she, we did a lot of physical training, I guess, to get in shape and stuff like that. So she could really be, as she put it, I think I saw in an interview, she didn't want to look good in the movie. She wanted to be good in the movie. And she definitely was that, for sure. So anyway, here she is. And that's our queen right there. She did a great job. And so you see how that training and welcome Angelus. Angelus is from Brisbane and Queensland, Australia. How's it going, Angelus?
Okay. I feel like I might be coming down with something, so I don't know if I'll...
You and Matu said she was not feeling 100% either, so,
I was sick this morning, too.
So anyway, remember, one of the things we did want to say about this stream is some real life type stuff, and this is part of it right here. You know, Rosa had to do this if she wanted to really pull this off. You know, I mean, certainly she could have just showed up and, you know, kind of phoned it in, I guess, or, you know, put in the time and then got a stunt double, and they did stunt doubled it, everything and all, but she didn't want, which I'm sure she still had a stunt double, no doubt. But I think the fact that she took it so seriously like this and really worked so hard at it, that, you know, it made it all the more rewarding, I guess, for us as fans, because, you know, I think all of us in the Alita Army just love Rosa to death, you know. So, I mean, that's, you know, it's just what it is. So, Angelus, you're kind of our resident martial arts expert. What was your take on that video right there?
In many interviews, she's stated that some of the reasons why that she wanted to do the physical preparation is because the mocap performance would capture so much of her nuances and like the intricacies of her facial expressions. This also includes when you're out of breath, when you're trying to catch your breath after performing something that might require like some level of physical exertion that you might not be used to. And all the frowns, the huffing, the shoulders, and just the body language would come across even with the mocap performance. So the fact that she went through this training, even though most of that stuff we don't see her do.
Yeah.
Like, for example, during the motorball scenes, and mixing it up with that level, it just means that they can use her for as much of it as possible. And on the flip side of that, she said that she still uses them because there are some things where people that have been, you know, Yugi the contortionist. She's been doing that, you know, pretty much her entire life. So obviously Rosa can't do that, but every scene leading up to that very second, and then the moment she stops doing that, she can take back over again. And we get to see like as much of Rosa's Alita as possible.
Yes.
So,
yeah,
and
I know.
that's what
makes
it. Yeah, that's what makes it, I guess, possible, and it gives lends more weight to these sorts of preparations in any sort of movies where it might require it.
Yeah. What I found remarkable, and I think we've said this before, and I think, you know, my brother is also a martial artist, and I think, Angelus, you and I have talked about this. I think the three of us would agree that the fact that she can do these movements like this with so little formal training, and when I say little, I don't mean to belittle her doing this, because putting 6 months in intense training for a part like this is extremely excruciating. There's no doubt about it. But the thing I was alluding to here is that she pulls it off with such expertise. You would think she had been training for years and she was a black belt. You would think that, you know, because, you know, she took it so seriously. You know, I mean, that flying, spinning back kick that she did, you know, it is really good. She nailed that thing. You did it 3 times, you know, and then that scene there where she's on the left, where she's now that's mostly, I guess it looks like mostly boxing, you know, but there was that other scene where she was sparring with that guy, you know, where, you know, he was kind of like an attacker coming after her, and she did a spinning back fist, and then she kind of ran back a little bit more, and then did a spinning, you know, I don't know what kind of kick that was.
I probably call it maybe a crescent kick of sorts.
Yeah, crescent kick. Yeah, that's a good one there. Just really, I mean, the way she got her foot up as high as she did on that is amazing. You know, for somebody that's, you know, only trained for say 6 months. I mean, that to me is just freaking amazing. But anyway, that's what brought, I think that's, in my opinion, this is one of the things that brought Alita to life and made her so realistic. You know, even though we know she's a total replacement cyborg, which we don't have those today, obviously, but she made it believable.
Yet.
Yeah, yet, that's right. But she made it believable. I mean, my God, you know, I mean, just standing, you know, granted she's in a mocap suit and all that, but, you know, you can't tell, you know, that she, you know, I think I've said this before, but when the first time I saw the movie, you know, I didn't know who Rosa Salazar was. And I saw her in the movie. I thought that's what, with the exception of the eyes, I knew they had CGI'd the eyes. I knew that for sure because nobody has eyes that big, or irises that big. But I thought that's what she looked like. I thought she was like a child star or something like that, maybe 18 years old or 20 years old tops, you know. And you know, and then the fact that when I found out who she was and I saw what she looked like and I saw Alita, I said, well, wait a minute, they still got a lot of her in Alita. You know, I mean, all the little, you know, like that little spot on her nose, you know, it looks like a little scar, just the little nuances of the way her face reacts, you know, in certain times, you know, and, you know, and there are shots where she's, you know, you could see it is Rosa, you know, you could definitely see Rosa's face, you know, in Alita, you know. So, but anyway, that's another story. Matu, you were channel. What was y'all's take on Rosa's performance? I mean, I don't suspect either one of you are martial artists, but what's your take on her ability to do this? Any thoughts?
I think that's actually really amazing that she did all that work in order to perform that good and to be like the Alita we had, because not many actors actually put that much effort and that much work into portraying a character. That shows a dedication and passion for a job, and that just makes Alita even more lovable for me.
Yes. What about you, Channel?
She looked amazing. I have zero expertise with martial arts, so I can't say how much of that was genuinely good martial arts and how much of that was great cinematography, so I'm leaving that part to you.
Oh,
As to people who know me more than me on the subject.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but still, you can appreciate what she did. You don't have to be a martial artist to appreciate that.
I said it looks good. I can't tell why it looks good. I can't just tell it looks good.
Yeah. The bad man says Alita also studied the Schneider and Gaussen schools of Panzer Kunst. Yeah, that's right. Because the Mauser school, that was kind of, they did do Panzer Kunst there, but that was also a school, I think, for special ops, if I remember correctly. Does anybody, Matu, you, Channel, or Angelus, recall anything else about that, about the Mauser school itself?
I know that they are exploring it in Mars Chronicle, but honestly, I've been so disconnected with it that I don't know. I'm sorry.
So yeah, you're right, bad man. That's not just the Mauser school. That's for sure. So you're spot on. Thanks for catching that. We appreciate it. And the Karma group, yeah, that's right. It was a special operations group. Yeah, for sure. As a matter of fact, let me play this video here that kind of outlines some of that.
Alita Battle Angel's military training has shaped her fighting skills. In the movie, Alita is a berserker, the most advanced cyborg weapon ever created. She was in the United Republics of Mars, or URM, Military Special Operations, where she achieved the rank of High Warrior. Alita was also Camera Group in the Mauser School of Panzer Kunst. But before we review Alita's URM military training and her combat skill.
So she definitely was in the Mauser school. Now I think in the manga she's a mercenary, wasn't she? If I'm not mistaken. It's been so long since I read the manga.
She was not a mercenary from what I remember. She was really an active member of the Panzer Kunst, and she was fighting for Mars, like really kind of like in the movie. Really, she was not a mercenary, but she was a terrorist.
Okay.
She was in the Manhoof operation, which, depending on how you look at it, was either a military operation or terrorism, or an act of terrorism. Yeah. Depending on which military you ask or which historian you ask.
Yeah, that's right.
She was either a terrorist or a mercenary.
Yeah, I guess the enemy's always terrorists, and then the other side thinks that military's terrorists, don't they? So I guess it depends on how you look at it, maybe.
Anyway, everybody's pissed because the plan failed.
Yes.
As in the killing a lot of people part succeeded, but the blaming it on someone else failed, so the people are still dead and Mars is still screwed.
Yeah, it was Operation Malwarf, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Except that doesn't happen in the movie, or at least we don't know about it happening. Instead, it's just the attack on Zalem. So Manhoof might have still happened, but like Erica doing it instead of Alita, which would explain why Erica isn't anywhere near. I mean, we don't know if she is, but that could explain why how to cut Erica out of the Zalem attack scene. Now I'm just rambling.
Oh, that's okay. Ramble away is no problem.
Anyway, from what we know, Alita in the movie did not have any involvement in Manhoof. If Manhoof even happened in the movie version, I think it might have.
Yes.
Happened with Erica instead of Alita.
Looks like we got a Alita or Battle Angel Alita expert out there. Thanks a lot for that, bad man. So anyway, I guess just to kind of tie things together, because because Panzer Kunst granted Panzer Kunst is a fictitious or fictional martial art, although the movements that Rosa's doing as Alita, they're not fictional. I mean, those kicks and that kind of stuff she does is, it is grounded in actual martial arts. Plus the fact that it's grounded a lot in the manga. A lot of that flying kick that she does on Nisiana, where she decapitates her, that's right out of the manga, where she does that flying kick with both feet. I mean, that's pretty amazing. But you see, they did have a similar kind of ranking. They didn't call them belts, but they did have rankings, where, so what we would consider in martial arts a white belt, then, that would be somebody who's just starting. They're a newbie. They're not proficient yet. And then, of course, as they start gaining proficiency, their level that they're at in their proficiency, they're awarded like a rank or a belt in this case for martial arts. Now, I've only got Kenpo and Shotokan up there because those are the two that I'm most familiar with. And I think Angelus is definitely more, he knows more about Shotokan than I do for sure. But, my black belt was in Kenpo karate. So, and that's, like say, it's been years since I've trained, but there is a progression that you don't achieve these levels unless you actually say do a test, or the instructor may award you a belt depending on, like, for instance, I know a case where someone who was a brown belt competed in the black belt division in a tournament, and they, as a brown belt, because there were no other brown belt competitors. So they put him in the black belt division and he won the division. So, it's the whole idea. It's not the belt that makes the ability of someone to fight, but it is a kind of a representation, for the showing their level of expertise. And you saw in that video where it was mentioned that Alita had obtained the ranking of high warrior. Well, that's a black belt. That's a similar, in terms of how they're laid out there in levels. Now it kind of gets a little iffy after that, because we don't have anything to go on. Like there's not we don't know if there's 7 levels of high warrior. We don't know that,
In the manga, it's getting because Sirkov, or in some translation they called him Ravens, which I'm gonna call him by because that's pronounceable. Says that Alita never actually reached the highest rank.
Oh yeah. Oh, you mean high warrior? You mean?
I don't remember what they were called in that translation or at all. I'm sorry, I don't remember everything.
Yeah.
But she never reached the highest rank, or at least she never did while she was still on Mars's side, because if she reached it afterwards in the Imaginos body, well, nobody was there, no other berserker was there to give her that rank. So as far as anyone was checking, she never reached it.
Yeah, that's right in terms of being awarded, because you're right, because in martial arts, and Angelus, you could attest to this, to get that level, you have to be, that level has to be given to you, not given to you like a gift, but I mean, you have to obtain it, and someone has to, kind of, agree that you are at that level and present you with whatever belt or whatever level you are. And that's the only way you get it, get the belt. You don't actually say, you don't tell yourself, I'm a 4th degree black belt in karate, and then you get a black belt and put 4 white stripes on it or something like that. That's not going to do it. In Alita's case, now remember we said we weren't going to go into the Imaginos body too much because that kind of transcends the berserker body, but Alita in her Imaginos level, she could probably take a 10th degree black belt or an elder in berserker ranking. She could probably take them pretty easy, because of her ability to move faster than the speed of light and her awesome strength. And she still has that ability to fight.
The speed of, does she move faster than light? I know she moves faster, a lot faster than sound, but light?
Well, there was this is an aside story. We had this discussion. It may not be canon, I know in her berserker body, she can move at like Mach 6.5 or something like that. But in the Imaginos body, there's I think there's a kind of one of those side stories where she is running and she notices everything in front of her is blue shifted, and everything behind her, as she looks over her shoulder, is red shifted. And you only can get that if you're running or you're moving at relativistic speed, so she had to be moving in that particular story. She had to be moving faster than 10% the speed of light. It's dangerously close to the speed of light, but still not faster than the speed of light. Yeah, not faster than the speed of light. That would have to be one of the canon stories. In the non-canon ending, she makes it from Zalem to Figure's village and then back to Zalem in a few matter of seconds, like less than a minute. Yeah. But that's not canon, and she didn't do that in canon. But the body is supposed to be roughly the same body as she has in Last Order. So that is something that the body would be able to do if she immediately knew how to control it. Yeah, which she didn't. Yeah, that's right. Operation Malwarfare. I do kind of remember that, Bad Man, that she was a war artisan in that. So I guess they considered her as like expendable, but you're right. Karula said she was a high warrior at least, but I don't know if Karula had I guess in Panzer Kunst, I don't know if Karula had the authority to grant her that level, but I think Karula just recognized that she had that level of ability of a high warrior. So, yeah, I kind of agree with you on that one. So, Karula couldn't have been a Kunstler because Karula was organic her entire life, and that's right. Specifically, a cyborg only martial art form. Yeah, that's exactly right. So yeah, Karula doesn't have the authority to give her a berserker ranking, but it's kind of like anybody that sees someone's abilities, they say, wow, that's pretty good. But Karula definitely is, if any of you've read the manga, she's pretty awesome, and she's a vampire, but I mean, she is awesome, and she could look at Alita and say, holy crap, she's a whole lot more than just a regular Künstler, you know, or a regular soldier or whatever. She's
Although
got more expertise.
And speaking of martial arts, Kairula co-founded a school of Kung Fu
Yes.
in her
Yeah.
backstory.
Yeah, exactly. You know, yeah, exactly. Kung Fu. Well, karate and Kung Fu are similar in some ways. You know, they're both martial arts. I guess that's where the similarity probably stops. You know, but you know, I think, yeah. So, you know, Karula founding a Kung Fu school like that would recognize the abilities of anyone's ability to fight, you know, I think. So
I remembered it because she mentions also, I think it was part of the comedic element for the backstory, that she was teaching the classes for children because the adults were too pervy.
yes. Yeah, that's right. And the bad man says, you know, she couldn't assign Panzer Kunst ranks, and Finn says, yeah, you can only earn those. So, you know, and it would have to be from another berserker, say like in the 9th chapter, I guess, of Mars Chronicles. There's a guy named, or 8th and 9th chapters, there's a guy named Kuhn, and he's a pretty adept martial artist in Panzer Kunst, you know. So he's I don't know, would you say, Angelus, he's even better than Alita, I think, isn't he, from what I remember? It's been a little while since I've read the 8th volume. So
Well, considering that Alita was only a chibi little
yeah,
chibi at the time.
she's a kid, yeah. So anyway, but you can see there's kind of a similarity there. Now, you know, and certainly, you know, it's hard to kind of put straight lines between this, you know, I mean, you know, and you certainly can't just look at a belt and determine, you know, what somebody's ability is. As an example, you know, a purple belt in Shotokan is much more advanced than a purple belt is in Kenpo, you know, so that's an example of that. And Shotokan doesn't even have a blue belt, which Kenpo does. So, but it, you know, generally speaking, and of course it sometimes depends on the instructor, how, you know, if they're good and if they're, you know, if they, you know, committed to the, you know, martial arts themselves, then they only award these belts if someone deserves it. You know, if they pass a test and they've demonstrated that they know the moves and stuff like that, then maybe they get the belt. But a lot of times there's a long period of time before you can get a belt. You know, like to get brown belt, you can't just get a brown belt in say 3 months. That's not going to happen. You know, I don't care whether it's Kenpo or Shotokan, it's going to take more than 3 or 6 months to get a brown belt. You know, I mean, you're probably looking at years. You know, how long it take you to get a brown belt, Angelus?
Geez, it was so long ago now. I think about at least a year from the previous belt to first level of brown.
Yeah, you mean
the
4th Kyu, you mean to
yeah,
3rd
so from
Kyu,
fourth so from 4th to 3rd was like a year.
Yeah,
that'd actually be pretty accurate.
Yeah, I think in my case it took me, I mean, I was a black and brown belt for like 6 months before I even got a chance to test for black belt. So, you know, and I don't remember. It's been a while. I'm thinking 2 years, something like that, you know. So, I mean, and that's what we were talking about a while ago about Rosa. You know, for someone who has just trained for 6 months, being able to pull off those moves as good as she did, you know, is extraordinary. So it just shows her dedication, you know, that she had, you know. So anyway.
Also, traditionally, like speaking, and by that I mean even before the I wouldn't call it the Western invasion, but before the Western influence, they really only had 2 belts, white and black, and the only reason why the Western came up with the various colors is like they came up with the different colors because it showed like the level of experience or training that the student has gone through.
Yeah.
But prior to that, the condition of the belt
Mm-hmm.
can quite often like be an indicator.
Yeah.
And one of the, I guess, it's not really superstition or anything like that, but one of the stories that, they used to come up with is the white belt would eventually become black naturally because of all the dried blood, sweat, and all that other jazz, dirt,
Yeah.
from the constant training.
Yeah, and I think that's where the I guess the Western influence on it became that they saw the belts were getting dirty and stuff like that. So, oh, I know what we'll do. We'll just have different color belts. So that's,
Doesn't dried blood turn brown instead of black?
yeah, but you mix it up with dirt, it's gonna eventually become black, I guess.
And of course, the reason why they have the white geese, as they call it, is because
Yeah.
it, again, before the Western influence kicked in. If you were to die during training, you'd still be, looking your best in white,
Mhm.
or something along those lines. I know it's.
Yeah, ours is a little different, I think, because when I got to brown black belt, I had in my gi, the top was white and the pants were black. And then when I got to first degree black belt, I got a black gi, and that's just now there's more than one version of Kenpo too, by the way. There's one called American Kenpo, which I am not affiliated with that or never was. The Kenpo that I learned was, more of a Filipino kind of origin, and it's some of its roots, because we even learned weapons too, but Eskrima was one of them, and the master that trained my instructor, he was a 10th degree black belt, but he didn't wear a belt. He wore a sash, is what he wore. And I think that's pretty common too in some styles. You don't see some guy wearing a black belt that's got 8 stripes on it or 10 stripes or whatever. I think at Taekwondo they only have 8 levels, if I'm not sure, a black belt. Angelus, you might know better than me, but I think Taekwondo has 8 degrees, I think, of black belt, whereas an 8th degree black belt in Taekwondo would be roughly equivalent to a 10th degree black belt in other styles. But it's not a straight line a lot of times. It's hard to do that, so
And the best way I can sort of help the live chat and anyone else that might be watching it in the future is what I believe Creaky is referring to is, as I'm looking through the Berserker rankings, I'm thinking, okay, what would be the equivalent? And I would probably go as far as, say, maybe the first 2 or 3 ranks from beginner to apprentice would be the variation of colored belts.
Yeah.
And war artisan would be like the first level of black.
Okay.
Because to me the word apprentice still holds like an air of like knowledge left to learn. I mean, like, we're constantly learning and perfecting. That's, don't get those terms confused, but you still have more to learn about the style itself as opposed to how you would apply it in an actual combat situation. Whereas you go to if someone is called a war artisan, that that sounds more, I don't know, fearsome or something like that. So you would think that would be their equivalent of a black belt, and that's when you, like, in the world of Alita, I'd imagine like a war artisan might be like be sent onto low-level missions, I guess. And to borrow from another IP, like your students, learners, and from Star Wars Padawans, for example.
Yeah, that's what
they might be the first 2, or maybe even up to 3, and then War Artisan Warrior might be like the equivalent of Jedi Knights, and then your other ones would be the levels of obvious Master and Grandmaster, etc.
Yeah, to me, war artisan though versus warrior. To me, I'm thinking of it from a military standpoint. You know, because you know, in the military here in the U.S., you know, they, you know, of course, in generally they're called war fighters, but you know, warriors, you know, would be someone that would be very experienced, uh, you know, at what they do, whereas a war artisan might be, to me, it just sounds a little less, you know. So I could see maybe a war artisan being a brown belt. You know, I could see that because by the time you get to brown belt, you're pretty proficient. Now you still got a long way to go, but you're getting proficient at what you do. You know, so I think it just matters on just depends on your take on it. You know, and it's like Angelus brings up a good point too. There's no real way to get this linked up straight line across like that. You know, yeah, there happens to be X number of these things on the right and on the Berserker rankings on the left, you know, but yeah, I think he's right. It's very, very difficult because we don't really have a lot in the manga to tell us about this either. But I could see where a war artisan could be a brown belt, or yeah, even a black belt for that matter. Say a first degree black belt. I could see that, you know, and then all of the lower belts, including brown belt, would also be squeezed down to apprentice or lower. I could see that, you know.
Also in the world of martial arts, there are quite a few sayings. First up, I'll start with you're only like it's not really a test, but an indicator, I guess, of if you're ready for the test, if you want to put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that my own instructor used to say is that you don't get to wear the belt until you start training like one.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't get to like orange or green.
Mm-hmm.
My particular style had like a couple of different colors from Shotokan, but most of it marries up pretty well. You don't get to wear a brown, you don't get to wear a black until you start training like one. So that's the first one that I wanted to come across. The second one is that all the colored belts, including brown, and again, this is sort of open to interpretation as well, is all is born from another saying of like the first thing you learn when you reach black belt is how little you know.
Yeah, that's right.
What that means is that I guess, like I said, one way of interpreting that is that all the previous belts or all the colored belts that, you know, the Western influence put into play is just, you know, what you would call training ranks, if you will.
Yes.
Or like, as again, my instructor used to affectionately call it body conditioning.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just, instead of indicating the different levels of skill, which it is a good indicator of, it's also a condition of an indicator of how much preparation you have in surviving black belt training once you do get to that level.
Yes.
Because you know, and as Kriegi indicated before, even brown belts are like almost treated like apprentice black belts.
Mm-hmm.
Hence the apprentice rank, which is what I sort of where I base what I would feel where the
Yeah, okay, I can see that
Yeah.
because yeah, I recognize there's no direct link here, you know, for sure. You know, I mean that's for sure. And to your point, I know when I was doing Kenpo karate, you couldn't even test for a black belt until the instructor was convinced that you were training like a black belt. And if they got the idea that you were training like a black belt and you'd been doing so for some period of time, and they were convinced that this, you know, you weren't going to quit or you weren't going to give up, then you'd get brown black, but you weren't there yet. You still had to continue training, like you said, Angelus, like a black belt before you even got a shot at the test. And that's one reason it took me a long time to go from brown black to black, I guess, because he wasn't convinced, you know, that I was training hard enough, I guess, you know, is probably part of it, or wasn't exhibiting, you know, the kinds of, how would you say, the expertise of my technique and stuff like that that would indicate that I was training hard enough, you know. So it took that's why it took a long time for me to do it. But anyway.
And to also link back to the movie and Rosa in particular as well, it's something that I personally like to call what I call the Miyagi effect. And I'll get to that name/word in a second, is that like, you know, to get to through the various from white to orange to brown to black, that journey in itself, like, you know, takes up a total of like maybe 2 to 3 years.
Yes.
All summed up. And you know, depending on how like switched on you are, how often you train, and the intensity of said training over any given period of time, it can also mean that you grade slower or faster than someone else. And the way I link it back to Rosa, and what I call the Miyagi effect, is you know, with traditional, I guess, training methods, it isn't as intense as like others, but with, like I said, with what I call the Miyagi effect, you know, in the movie of the Karate Kid, you know, it's one of those movies that some might not have seen it, but it's a fun little flick to watch if you're into that sort of thing. But you know, he got told to do all these, you know, the various chores,
Wax on and wax off, right?
which had,
yeah,
and the amount of repetition alone of said actions, you know, it starts to give you like your pains and aches in wrists, knees, elbows, and all that other jazz.
yeah.
And you know, when Daniel finally had enough of it, he said, like, you know, I'm not learning anything. This is crap. I'm out of here. He goes, all right, show me how to do this. Like, you know, show me wax on, wax off. So he shows it to him, the basic action. He says, all right, now do that same action, but, you know, more towards a block, as it were, for those that have seen the movie. And then, you know, at the very end of the scene, he basically said, you know, no prompts, no counts, no whatever. He just started throwing fists and feet at Daniel, and he just, you know, just did it through reactive muscle memory, as it were.
Yeah.
So that, again, it also comes down to, you know, the type of training, who trains you, the training methods. So all the colored belts, all the berserker rankings, you know.
Yeah, I think I'm going to agree with you, because I think you know, based on what Badman said out there too about, you know, beginners, enthusiasts, and apprentice, they're not they're not warriors. They're only allowed to spar, if you want to think of it as that, you know. So I think I'm going to agree with that, you know, up to say green belt, maybe. Brown belt, you know, I don't know. That's possible. I guess it depends on the person, you know, because I've known brown belts that could whip black belts' tails. You know, I've known that, you know, and that's because their instructor was, you know, that they trained so hard, and they you know, they had such high, you know, expectations and requirements of them that, you know, what one person might think would be a black belt would be, you know, one level of skill. And that doesn't reflect on if someone who's a brown belt is better at what they do, you know. But anyway, I think I do agree though. I think maybe my chart here could be squeezed down a little bit, at least to the green belts down to the apprentice, and possibly even brown belts. I could see that, you know, because yeah, I agree that, you know, when you get to black belt, I mean, one of the things about black belt, and it's like Angelus was saying, is that you finding out how much you really don't know. And I remember my instructor used to tell us that no matter how bad you think you are, there's always somebody who can beat you. So, you know, and that was so train even harder. When you get black belt, train harder. You know, that's what he kind of instilled in us, you know. So anyway, I think we may be boring Matu and Channel to death here with all this fighting. So I think
I'm just listening. It's interesting.
Okay.
Well,
I'm learning and I'm doing the background on a drawing.
Oh, cool.
well, considering that it
I
still uses the word,
doing streams.
considering that it still uses the word art, I mean,
Yeah.
take it from you know, a drawing perspective. Like when you first pick up a set of colored pencils and you start drawing Alita. Let's
Yes.
use Alita as an example.
Yeah,
You know, your
exactly.
first one's just going to be like, what the
Except
hell? Is
with
that an eye? Is that a
art, you
nose?
don't. Except with art, you don't really have ranks. Like I guess some art community might install ranks, but there's no
Yeah.
official ranking, and it's not a norm to rank as in. Okay, you're great. It's more like, okay, you're good at perspective, but oh my god, your hands look like they're drawn by AI. But it's not like, I am a level 4 artist. I am a black pencil case artist.
Okay.
Or you could have fun with it, making up ranks, but
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you can, you know.
at the very least,
I am a always at least 7 whips as in work in progress, 3 of which I will never get finished artists.
but I mean, still at the same time as well, like you know, I don't know how long you've been drawing as an artist, and like I hate to use it. I feel like I'm using the same names over again, but I don't know how long Cran's been drawing as well. But there's so much of like your style that I like, and there's so much of her style that I like. It's, you know, no one's worse or better than the other. It's just different.
Most of
And
the ones I've
you know,
seen from
who knows what who knows what it would have looked like when you first started drawing, or you know,
Yeah.
when you saw something that made you want to say, I want to try and do that,
Yeah.
and then you try
most
and
most
yep,
of what
go
I've
ahead.
seen from her style is digital, and digital drawing and traditional drawing are, I mean, they're both drawing, but they still kind of sometimes count as separate mediums for a reason.
Yeah, and then there's painting as well.
Yeah, exactly.
And like I mean,
And then there's sculpting and modeling, which I know sculpting isn't the same thing as drawing, but modeling, 3D modeling, is somewhere somewhere between digital drawing and sculpting. So do of that one as you will.
but at the very heart, no pun intended, or at the very essence of it, you know, you'd be able to tell at least to some degree, like someone that might have less experience and someone that might have more experience in drawing.
Mhm.
Like you look at Cran's drawing and say, you don't see much of like some of the things that I like about hers. You don't see many of those even in manga panels and so forth. But you know that they're still done well because I don't know, they're consistent, I guess, across all her pieces. And like, if I
Well,
was
not
to
only that,
compare,
the detail too. It's a thing.
yeah,
I
and
really like the light with the cyberpunk ones, the lighting. When I watch
oh yes,
both when I draw myself and when I watch certain things, beautiful scene, lighting that's a disaster. AI also like beautiful anime girl, lighting's a disaster. I honestly can't do complicated lighting either. The lighting on hers just works so well. Matthew, how do you do that? I've seen tutorials and I still don't know how to do that.
Here's the good
and
point the bad man brings up. Alita was a war artist, and although her name was Yoko, as opposed to Alita,
Sorry.
but yeah, he's right though. Yeah, this is sort of coming back to me. Yeah, that's right, because I do remember Karula saying that she had the ability of a high warrior. But yeah, I guess you're right, bad man. I think she was a war artisan because she painted everything in blood. That's a good point right there. So
The one you said about art that you can tell whether someone is experienced or not, sometimes, because art progress is optional. If you stick,
yes.
because the main advice is given to artists is draw every day. But if you draw every day in the same style, roughly the same thing, at the same angle, you will not really improve at all. You need to some degree experiment to get any art progression. Shocking, I
It's
know.
funny.
For your art style to change over the years, you need to occasionally change your art style.
Well, I know Kran
So
when
there's some people who draw the exact same way after 8 years.
Well, when Kran was on the stream early last year, she drew Alita live, and she confided in me that she was using her tablet, or I think she was doing it digitally, and she said I didn't know what I was doing, but it came out really great. Now I imagine. So I guess she would have been, now she was an artist for a while. And so she was probably like, trying to link it up here. She was probably like a green belt or a brown belt, maybe, and then now she's so good and she keeps doing it. She's now a black belt, I guess, in drawing, I guess. Or what'd you call it? Channel of black pencil or something like that.
Again, how do you rank it? Do you rank it based on the ability to draw, to draw characters, to draw backgrounds? Because when there's fighting, you can tell who won the fight, and the drawing. How do you decide whose is better?
Well, I know in Kenpo, to get up to blue belt, you were basically doing it with what's called forms or kata, and you had to perform this kata, and there was a bunch of them. There's, all the way up to green belt. There's like 30 different kata that you have to memorize, and it doesn't mean you just memorize it with words. You have to know the movements, and you have to execute them with proficiency, or you don't pass the test. Now, by the time you get to green belt and you're going for brown belt, and you from brown belt to black belt, I think even when you're going for blue green belt, you have to spar to do that. Like, for instance, a blue green belt would spar against a green belt, that kind of thing. And a green brown belt would spar against a brown belt in the style I was in, So you not only knew the kata, you also had to know more kata too when you progressed to the higher belts, but you also had to spar. And I know in my case, when I finally got to test for first degree black belt, I had to fight 5 black belts at one time. It was like a combination attack, and I'll be honest with you, I didn't win that fight. That's for sure, but the instructor was convinced that, I did well enough, that I held my own, even against those 5 black belts, that he said, okay, you've demonstrated that you know the techniques, you know how to fight, and we're going to award you the black belt. And another thing about my instructor too is he didn't believe in tournaments. He wanted to teach us how to fight, not how to compete in tournaments. That's kind of the way he did with us, and there are a lot of instructors like that, but there are some instructors, they just want trophies. At least this was the case back when I took karate many years ago, Now, I would dare say somebody like Chuck Norris, he knows how to fight, that's for sure. He wasn't in it just to get a trophy or to get some kind of medal, because he knew how to fight. And the same thing with Bruce Lee, but there are some folks instructors that'll rush you through the lower belts just to get money, because they want to keep their students interested. And if you get someone who's stuck at a belt for a year, they're going to get discouraged, a lot of times with some instructors. Now in our style, and I think Angelus, from what you indicated, same in your style, you could be stuck at a belt level for a year and you just had to just keep going at it until you finally push through it,
I guess another way is as I was listening to your people's various points, is that it's not like the one and only or the top tier premier indication, but eventually I do feel, and by all means correct me, but I do feel that there comes a stage or a time where a drawing artist can differentiate between how they might not draw hands or feet or faces very well to a particular detail being part of their style.
Oh, you can do it as early as you want. If you don't know how to fix it, just say it's part of your style. And it can range from, oh, why do your characters not have noses? Well, I have a cartoony style that just doesn't have noses. Or why do your hands look like that? Well, I just like to simplify hands. Or some people would just say, I don't really draw hands, or I don't really draw a certain body proportions, or I don't draw black people, it's just not my style. That is an actual argument. Or I don't draw certain body types, it's just not my style. I don't draw hands that well, it's just not my style. And those range from just being there. A style is just things about your drawings that are hard for you to change, and you're not gonna try to change, because when you do, you fail, and you're not gonna redo it over and over until you learn. That's a weird way of putting it, because
it
some
still
of
makes
parts of the
sense,
style are things that you can change, but you do a certain way because you know it's gonna look good. So just that was an awkward way of putting everything. But
that would be similar to like karate, though. And I want to move off this slide because we've been on it for half an hour. But I would say it's similar in karate in that.
I think Mastu fell asleep with her mic off.
Well, the thing about
her microphone is turned off.
Well, people.
I'm listening.
Yeah,
okay.
listening.
Sorry.
No, she's not asleep. But it's like people that are karateka, they call them, that in the lower belts, they can't do, I mean, maybe you might have the prodigy here and there, it can, but you get somebody who's a white belt, and maybe they've been, doing what they're doing with their instructor for a month, let's say. They certainly can't throw a roundhouse kick like a black belt can. They just can't do it because they haven't had enough time to learn and get the muscle memory and to, get everything, to practice the technique and to, just do everything it takes to throw an effective, roundhouse kick, because they just don't know, they haven't had enough time to do it, so it'd be a similar thing, I think, with karate, so anyway, I want to move off the slide and just very briefly talk about, and I'll link this to some karate techniques, to a degree. There's no direct link, obviously. But, you know, and I didn't use the Japanese terms here, but you can see some of this stuff right here is very, how would you say, unique to cyborgs. Like, for instance, the Hertzaheon is a punch that a cyborg would throw, in which it's not only the force of the punch. Oh, we lost Angelus. Look at that. It's not only the force of the punch, but they have an ability to emit an electromagnetic kind of an EMP, if you want to think of it as that, when they hit someone. Oh, his headset died. So, but anyway, then Angelus, I guess you have to get another headset. Well, anyway, and it would not only would the punch, you know, be devastating, but the EMP would be additionally damaging to another cyborg, you know, when you get hit with that. And then, of course, you know, some of this is weapons related, like elbow blade, speedball, and bomb art. Now, missile blow is a kind of a punch, I think. I don't remember exactly. Outer thrust is where they kind of propel themselves, you know, at an opponent with their feet, you know, or they kind of, and then they kick them, you know. Now there's variations of it. We saw Alita do a variation of that, you know, against or tried to do it against Gruishka, but she got cut in half, you know, cut to bits. Yes. Dim Mock. Now, you know, it's funny about, you mentioned that, Finn. Yeah, vibration. That's right, bad man. It's all not just EMP, it's also vibration. It does specifically a lot more damage to cyber. Well, if you hit a human being with what, you know, certainly this is a fictitious technique, but if you could hit a human being with Hertzaheon, they'd probably explode, you know. But anyway, that's another story. Dim Mock. You know, the funny thing about that word Dim Mock, I know where this come from. There was this guy back in the 70s that had a style where he practiced what he called dim mock, where he just touched somebody and it would have devastating effect on just touching them, you know. It turned out to be kind of a bullshit type thing, you know, but you know, he yeah, Korean, yeah, that's right, Finn. Yeah, that's what that is. But anyway, and I think that guy, I can't remember, he might have been a Taekwondo or, you know, Muduk Kwan Tong Sudo, or one of those Korean arts. I'm not sure. He was an American, though. He wasn't a Korean. And I can't remember his name now. It's been 40, 50 years almost. But anyway, yeah, that was, but in the, you know, in the manga, you know, this is a real technique, you know. And as a matter of fact, I think it was one where, and somebody in the chat correct me if I'm wrong about this, is that I know Erica did this to Zazie, I think, where she, I guess it sets up a vibration of some sort. And
Alita tries to neutralize it, and when she does neutralize it,
yeah,
she feels back the vibration, spelling, I think in Morse code or some other code, I'm waiting for you.
Yes. So anyway, it's kind of mystical in that regard in the manga, you know. But yeah, she actually cured Zazie, didn't she? Of that particular thing. So yeah, resonant frequencies. That's exactly right, Bad Band. That's what it does, and it kind of localizes in one spot, and then eventually it explodes. Because I think, yeah, Erica. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, a solitone wave. That's right, like a sine wave, where she did that to Zazie, and Zazie, I think, thought that she only had like a month to live or something like that, and Alita cured her of it, whatever. So that's a good point, Bad Man. But anyway, unnamed suicide technique, of course, is, as it suggests, you know, is that this is a technique that, you know, that a Künstler would do if they're, you know, going to be captured or something like that. Then they, you know, do something where they commit suicide and maybe in the process kill as many as they can. You know, now Alita was supposed to do this when she did Operation Malwarf, but she didn't do it. So Now, in terms of karate techniques, certainly bonsoir, David. Anyway, and we saw, a couple of these we saw in the Battle Angel, Alita Battle Angel. The axe kick, that was that kick she did to Gruishka, actually did it twice. The first time she took his arm off in the alley. The second time she tried it in the underworld, and he was a lot tougher, and she couldn't take his arm off like she did before. A back fist is almost like in boxing. You could think of it as something like a left jab or something like that. Although you can hit somebody pretty hard with a back fist. We saw Alita do a crescent kick. Where you remember when Ito came into the Kansas bar after Alita started this big fight, and he walks in there and he looks at her, and there was this guy at the table, and she did a crescent kick on him, and knocked him out, I guess. And then, of course, a front kick, is just a simple kick, to somebody, you're facing them. A roundhouse kick is a kind of a kick that you throw that hit them with the top of your foot, but it's a real fast kick. As a matter of fact, what was neat about that kick, I didn't even know what that kick was when I was training as a lower belt when I was training in karate. And when I went to one of my first tournaments, I sparred against a guy that had a roundhouse kick. It was my first tournament. And I went, what the hell was that? Kind of thing, So anyway, that's when I picked that up, because the Kenpo karate doesn't have a roundhouse kick in it. Then, of course, the side kick, we saw Alita actually do that, and she kind of did an improvised type of kick where she maybe, she ran at Romo and did like a flying side kick on him, and she did one on Nisiana as well, where she kind of jumped at her, met her in midair, and kicked her and knocked her against the wall, and then kind of did that improvised double side kick, I guess is what that thing was, And then, of course, you can just still punch somebody just like you could in boxing. And that sweep is something you do if you want to take somebody off their feet, you kind of sweep their leading leg, and then you can, maybe grab them or hit them in such a way where they go down. And then, of course, there's different kind of blocks, that kind of thing. But anyway, all of these tactical kind of techniques you put together in terms in what's called forms or kata, where you do a combination of these. Now, in terms, and this is my belief. Now, once again, I don't really train in karate anymore, but I think kata and forms are good for people that are learning the techniques, but they really don't teach you how to fight. You don't really know how to fight until you start sparring somebody. And then, of course, you really don't know how to fight until you start sparring full contact. And possibly that you can fight when you get hit in the face. That's when okay, now maybe I can fight now, but what kata and forms, what they're good for is they teach karate students how to put movements together, and then, they eventually keep practicing and practicing. Then as they get more advanced, say attain brown belt or say black belt even, then, they actually, can maybe put things together, just naturally, without having to go through some preset form, Yeah, that's right, Angelus. Kata is for body conditioning. That's right, because we used to do that. Our instructor would say, do the basic dances until I say stop. And you'd be doing them for 15 minutes before he said stop, and you had to throw these punches and kicks just like you were fighting, you're not fighting, but it's kind of like Finn was saying, it's kind of like you're shadow fighting, And then, of course, Kumite is actually fighting. Now, in Kenpo, we didn't call it that because Kenpo is more of a Chinese derivative, and maybe through Okinawa or possibly the Philippines or something like that. But the movements are very similar, So, yeah, that's right. Application XP. I don't know what that one is, Angelus. So. And Jealous, you can still come on and use your speakers if you turn your volume down if you want. So anyway, you can see from, I guess, from the Panzer Kunst, they have specific techniques that they have named, just like you do in karate and kung fu. Oh, I see. Experience. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I see where I thought you were talking about some kind of app. What the heck that was. Yeah, that's right. Kumite or sparring is basically what Kumite is. That's where you're applying these moves that you've learned in kata, and it's more fluid. And the experience you gain from that helps you to be more proficient with these techniques. So anyway, hope I got that right, Angelus. At least that's the way I remember it. So, okay. So, well, first of all, I just wanted to show, I wanted to do I guess, show a video here, I guess, of a Panzer Kunst type of video. So,
Panzer Kunst and martial arts skills. First, we'll analyze how Panzer Kunst enables Alita to defend herself against a single armed attacker, Zapan. After Zapan grabs Alita's shoulder, she grabs his throat and uses his arm as leverage to smash his head against a table. This technique is similar to one of the Kenpo Karate grab art defenses. Many martial arts styles have similar techniques. After Zapan swings the Damascus blade wildly at Alita, she spins him around, punches him in the midsection as a distraction, then disarms him. Alita then finishes Zapan off with an open palm strike to the nose and a front kick that sends him 25 feet across the Kansas bar floor. Next, Alita takes on 3 cyborgs in an Iron City alley. She begins by executing a flying sidekick on Romo, then finishes him off with an 11-punch ground and pound attack. After vanquishing Romo, Alita is attacked by Nisiana, armed with 2 blade weapons mounted on her arms. Even though Nisiana appears to have the tactical advantage at the beginning of the attack, Alita keeps her head, evades Nisiana's attacks, and counters with an improvised lying sidekick from the ground, sending Nisiana against a wall. Then, Alita executes an improvised double flying sidekick that decapitates Nisiana. Alita then turns her attention to Gruishka. After evading 2 punches from the larger cyborg, she leaps from an elevated position from a high wall and cleaves off Gruishka's arm with an axe kick, then attacks him with Ido's rocket hammer, forcing him to retreat. Panzer Kunst is an extremely effective fighting style against larger opponents. Panzer Kunst also trains Künstlers how to fight in...
So anyway, that's kind of how that, you saw that a lot of those techniques are very similar to karate and kung fu type techniques. And of course, that's what was that? What was that, Finn? You broke my nez. Okay, sorry about that then. So, but you could see a lot of those techniques are, they're what you saw here, and Panzer Kunst is similar, and that because as the narrator said there, that that many martial arts styles have similar techniques. I mean, an axe kick is an axe kick is an axe kick. There may be some slight differences in the way they maybe execute them in ways, but ultimately it's still an axe kick. And the same would be true of, say, a roundhouse kick. It'd be the same thing, except maybe some slight differences, but it's still in a roundhouse kick. Okay, so Alita also had gone through some combat tactics and weapons training, and that's because she was in the military. They don't just learn how to fight hand to hand, in the military. I mean, certainly they do learn some of that in basic training, but they don't, certainly they don't get to the level of black belt doing it, but they do learn some of that even in armed forces today. But a lot of these folks, these soldiers, do get some pretty advanced, in some cases, use of firearms. And of course, here's one that
under fire and the use of firearms. During the Great War, the Fall, Gelda's and Alita's squad sends the supply tube to Zalem. After a defense ring takes out several berserkers, the rest of the squad does not flee, but begins firing at the ring from prone and kneeling positions. Even as the defense ring bears down on them, the squad holds their positions and continues firing. We also see Alita firing a plasma rifle at the ring. This requires great courage and discipline to continue firing and not run. Eventually, Alita is rescued by Gelda and ordered to finish the mission and destroy Zalem. Next, we see Alita remove a Gatling gun from a Centurion and fire it at a deckman. Alita has intimate knowledge of firearms.
So that's just an example of some of the stuff that she had to learn, you know, when she was in the military. So what is this, Bad Man? Let's see. Bad Man, you ought to come on the stream with us. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they can't, you know how you see at the end of every movie that no animals were harmed? Well, they can't say that about the deck man, so that's a good point. Yep, good catch. So anyway, in addition to learning how to fight, you know, hand to hand with just, you know, kind of martial arts techniques, they also learn how to use weapons. And in addition to that, you know, I think that Alita also, well, wait a minute, too far, wrong button.
Right out of Panzer Kunst. Her arc plasma weapon is her own personal style that cannot be taught to other berserkers. Next, Alita attacks the Centurions even though they fire their weapons at her at a high rate. This is another example of the discipline she learned while in the military. She also instinctively uses her plasma weapon with the Damascus blade to take out Glorishka within 10 seconds. Her fighting skill and combat knowledge are truly second to none. We should remember the character Alita was in an elite Martian military unit. She is a berserker, the most advanced cyborg weapon ever created. Although her military training and fighting skills are based on the movie, it is obvious the character Alita would be a formidable opponent for any enemy if the future produces cyborgs like her. The actor who played Alita, Rosa Salazar, trained hard, and this was essential to make the techniques authentic.
So anyway, another shout out for our queen there, as you can see in that. So essentially, you know, Alita as a person, she is very warrior oriented. I mean, now in the movie, we don't get that at the beginning so much because she hasn't, you know, she's forgotten everything. She's been basically asleep for 300 years. So she doesn't, you know, she only when she gets into these situations where she gets a flashback where she maybe perhaps remembers some Panzer Kunst techniques, or she remembers at least some of the instinctive training that she got when she was in the military. So Matu, you or Channel got anything to say about that?
No, I'm not a connoisseur about it, but I am listening because it's really interesting. And I think you said it all. It's like watching a nice documentary, but I can directly ask questions if I want to.
Yeah. Channel, any thoughts?
Yeah, I was talking before. Matu summed it up pretty well.
See, I am so sure that all of those Künstlers that were below war artisan, they probably wouldn't. Well, I don't know, Bad Man, you would know probably. I don't remember. I don't think they would get weapons training because they're not fighting. They're still learning, I think. But
if Mars is at war, they might have sent them anyway, just cannon fodder.
Yeah, they might do that. Yeah, you know.
I mean, the youngest soldier in the Warsaw Uprising was 9.
No, that's pretty bad right there. I know in World War II, I guess some of the, some of the kids that were fighting there were, you know, they were like little kids themselves. What's this? Yeah, she had that. That's right. She had amnesia. That, it is very similar to Jason Bourne, you know, because he was I guess he was shot 3 times and was floating in the ocean for a long period of time before he got discovered, and he couldn't remember his name. Of course, I guess in the 3rd movie, I guess the Bourne Ultimatum, I guess Pamela, what's her name? Oh gosh, I can't remember her last name now, but she told him his name was James Webb, I think was his name, not to be confused with the James Webb Space Telescope. So anyway, he very much like Jason Bourne. She couldn't remember her name. She couldn't remember a lot of things about her past, but the fighting techniques were so ingrained in her that she did remember them, you know.
And the password to this, and the password to the spaceship. I don't remember what my name is, but I do remember the password to the spaceship.
Yes, that's right. Because she did, when she got in there, she just went right to that area, didn't she? Where that berserker body was, didn't she? They do. Okay. Yeah, that's right. They do get. Okay, that's a good point, Bad Man, because I couldn't remember that for sure. So anyway, they would have to get some weapons training, or else that they. Yeah, go ahead, Channel.
I thought she wandered around the ship a bit, but I cut it out because the movie was already cramming as much as it could. But she definitely had remembered the codes. So
yeah,
at least that one's for sure, even though I'm not fully sure she remembered where to go in the ship.
Yeah. Anyway,
they were worried about her outside, so it's possible she was wandering around the ship a bit and we just didn't see it.
Yeah, Dave.
Though she might have just gone straight to it. So
yeah, Jason Bourne wasn't James, it was David Webb. That's right. Thanks for that, Bad Man. You ought to come on the stream with us, Bad Man. You keep me straight. So anyway, I appreciate it though. You know, Alita Bourne. Okay, I don't know about that one there, Finn. That's so anyway. So I guess Angelus, you can't get back on. I was thought maybe we could pull up some karate, actual karate sparring or something like that, but we don't need to do that. We can wrap things up, I guess. Any thoughts? Did we miss anything, Matu or Channel?
No, I think we covered it pretty well. It was like really enlightening, really, really interesting. I think we said it all. I mean, I think you said it all because I didn't talk that much, but I listened.
Channel, any thoughts?
None on the stream.
Okay. So anyway, I think my final thoughts were, of course, as you can see in that center panel right there, Alita loves her Uncle Creek, that's for sure. But I would say one of the things about martial arts in general, maybe not so much Panzer Kunst because it was a cyborg thing, but the way I was actually taught martial arts, it's not that you use it to bully people or, to think you're better than others or something like that. It's a training and discipline is what it is, and I think probably they got that kind of, how would you call it, mental kind of adjustments or whatever you want to call it, that would, kind of instill them. Like, for instance, in that one video where that defense ring was coming down at them, they didn't run. They a couple of them got in, Gelda and Alita got in the prone position and the others were in kneeling position or standing, and they kept shooting at that defense ring, even though it was bearing down on them. So that takes a lot of discipline to do something like that, because the normal human reaction would be to run, from it, but they didn't do that. So I would think that kind of approach to training for Alita probably was a major factor in all of the martial arts training or Panzer Kunst training she got ingrained so deeply in her psyche that it was maybe it was there when she actually needed it, even though she couldn't remember her name was Yoko, so. Okay, so anyway, here's our queen, Rosa, and of course, Rosa made Alita come to light and alive, rather, and she I tell you, she's a great actress. There's no doubt about it, you know. And of course, I also want to give a shout out to Elle Lamont and Jesse Fisher, because they brought Screwhead to life. And we definitely want Screwhead to come back into the sequel itself, you know, the second movie at the very least, because that's going to be where the motorball arc is. And I think Screwhead would be great as one of Alita's teammates, you know, to when she goes up against Joshigan, you know. So hopefully Cameron, Rodriguez, Landau will see their way to get all three of the, well, certainly Rosa is going to be in the sequel, but, you know, even Elle and Jesse, I think, you know, definitely should be in the sequel themselves. All three of them are great professionals. They know what they're doing. They, you know, they're just excellent what they do. And of course, as I say every week, it sure don't hurt that they're pretty. So, but that's not all it's about them. They are great at what they do. So, and Angelus is not here, so I'll have to bring this up. But I guess tomorrow on Radio Chaos, what we're going to talk about is when Alita Battle Angel 2 or Alita Fallen Angel, when it's released, do we think Alita will become a Disney princess? That might rub some folks the wrong way, you know, but will she be a Disney princess? I don't know. What do you think, Matthew? Do you think she'll become a Disney princess?
No, but she would become a Disney goddess.
Ah, yes, I love that. Yes, she would be a Disney goddess. Yes. What do you think, Channel?
People will definitely classify as her as such, but if they still haven't made Mirabelle part of the official lineup, I don't think they're gonna be adding an Alita. Also, she doesn't really sing any musical numbers. The only Disney princess without her own musical number that she's actually singing herself is Merida.
Well, you know, there is some scenes in the manga, you know, where she sings and plays keyboards.
There's no actual there is no song sung by Alita that you can put on a Disney princess's soundtrack.
Well, they could probably come up with something that's a little more laid back or something.
They could give her a song in the second movie.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Imagine if they announce the jokes was already going around, but it's still not dead. Imagine if they announced we will be making Alita 2 as a musical.
Oh no.
No.
No, that can't happen. Yeah, Alita Fallen Angel has got to be all about in my opinion, and I said this a couple of weeks ago, and I've said it several times. I think it's got to be about the Motorball arc and the Zerkerpan arc. Or I wouldn't mind if they made 4 movies and they made the second movie the Motorball arc, then they made the third movie the Zerkerpan arc, and then they made the fourth movie the Badlands arc. I wouldn't mind them doing that. That'd be all right with me. She would be a Disney angel, though.
Yeah.
She definitely would be that. She'd be the Disney Battle Angel is what she would be. So, okay. Why is this image here? Well, that image is there because I like it and I'm running and producing the stream. And to paraphrase Gruishka, I am only here for our girl and the Alita Army. And of course, all of us are only here for our girl and the Alita Army. So unless anybody, Chandler, Matthew, if you got any very, very last thoughts, I guess it'll be time for us to do the call to action.
Take it away for tomorrow.
No last thoughts. Only love for Alita.
Cool. Channel, any final thoughts at all?
My thoughts can wait for tomorrow's stream.
Okay, that'll work. Yep. Okay, so I guess let's do the call to action on my count of 3. That would be 1, 2, 3. Film those sequels, baby. Yes. So anyway, see you next week on the Alita live stream. We'll see you tomorrow on Radio Chaos. Bye.
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 What's up, Alita Army? This is Hot Toys Alita, and I hope you enjoyed this week's Alita live stream. Please join my Uncle Creek Angelus, and our other guests for next week's show. Remember, I do not stand by in the presence of evil, and film those sequels, baby. See you next time.